All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the behind the scenes early people that have joined us. Uh, Hello, bass guy. Thank you for joining us. I'm part of the web creative community, and tonight I'm actually going to be doing a bit more video editing for the second half of the stream. We had fun 2 weeks ago doing that, so we'll be bringing that back in the second hour. We got Carly in chat. Welcome in, Carly. And my dad's also in chat, so welcome in the dad as well. And Champ, thank you for the 26 months. I'm excited. Champ's going to be on a little bit later. We're going to talk wrestling, a little bit of the NBA All Star, and maybe even have him do a little bit of the crossover for going into the talk about the video editing and all that sort of stuff for the second hour. So, yeah, we'll do hockey, then basketball, then video editing. But we'll get into that on the podcast side when we start to do that. And that's a question that from T Dog: is it going to be on Facebook? We'll see. Let's. I never know what Facebook is going to do this week. So let's start a recording on this.
Recording in progress.
You never can have too many extra recordings. We're going to go live on Facebook right now and see what I have access to. Last week I couldn't share from the show page, so that was frustrating for sure. Let me see here what I can do. 1 second. So, C4, how are you doing today while I'm start getting stuff set up?
I'm doing all right. I'm the one-armed monster tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you for joining us. I know that it's been a recovery, but it seems that you are doing better than expected, at least at this point. So that's
I think so. Yeah, I start physical therapy tomorrow.
nice.
Wednesday will be 2 weeks, and I
Oh,
have
wow.
my follow-up with the doctor on Thursday afternoon. So,
Got it. Yeah. Um,
so yeah, I haven't mastered putting on long sleeve shirts yet, but that's coming.
yeah, I mean, hey, you're doing better than I think I would be at this point. So,
I'm not gonna lie, it's still sore,
I'm
but
sure.
it's
Yeah,
it's
the fact that you're even willing to do this just says, I know that you were on
just
Bill's
just
show
sitting
last
here
week.
talking. This is easy.
Yeah. I try to not make it too complicated for you guys. Um, all right, let's see. Here's the moment of truth. We're going to share it to a page. Let's see what, yeah, same thing. No Sports OTHP page. We're going to go live from the True Radio Network, which is fine. That's actually our network that we broadcast from, so it's not incorrect. I'm going to share this live. So let's see if this works.
Well, I got a little note that says it's being streamed on Facebook, so
So did I.
All right, there we go. All right, so we are. All right, well, welcome to episode 331 of Sports on the Hill podcast. We are broadcasting live on the True Radio Network's Facebook page. Facebook is still preventing me to go live from the show page, so I still have to figure that out. But yeah, we'll go live from that one. I will share it in just a few minutes to a bunch of other groups so people can find it, including onto our show page. But yeah, I'm joined by C4, and Gil is going to have a grand reveal in just a moment. And we're have a fun show tonight. The show will start with our Caps Talk segment. We only have 2 games to break down, but a lot of games to preview. Big week coming up for the Capitals. We'll talk about the game that happened on Gil's 50th birthday, and a interesting back and forth affair. And we'll also break down the other game that was a little bit more lopsided, shall I say, against, it was not a very happy Valentine's Day for the Capitals. We'll just put it that way. But yeah, so 1 week, and then a lot of games to preview coming up. And we'll also talk about Gil's birthday in addition to that. And then after that segment, we'll have Champ, who's in chat on Twitch right now. We'll have him come on. We'll talk a little NBA All-Star break. and the All-Star festivities from the weekend. We won't get into the game so much because that was kind of a lopsided, not very exciting, and they don't play defense anymore. But the All-Star competition for the skills competition, I think, is still where it's at. So he'll help me break that down, as well as we will talk about all the huge wrestling news from this past week. So lots of stuff to break down with him. And then in the third segment, we're going to have Andy join in, most likely. Maybe also have Champ for part of it as well. And we will do another scuba diving edit. We released a video this past weekend, and people can go check that out there. It's part 10 of that video series. It's also the most recent video on my YouTube channel. So we'll talk about that video, how I made it, and talk about the parts for the next movie, which is part 11, which is our final video in the series. So we'll talk about that all in the second hour. You won't get that in the audio podcast or the Facebook Live, but you will get that on our Twitch channel, and then also later on YouTube when I clip it up. So anyway, I appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of this, live on Facebook and live on Twitch. I guess at this moment, to celebrate his 50th birthday, we should bring in Gil right now. He has a special outfit that we've been teasing, that he's going to be wearing tonight to celebrate 50 years. So we'll bring him in now, and I will also share the True Radio Network to a couple of people real fast as well. So let me see. Is he coming on?
All right. Well, yep. Here goes.
Drum roll.
Nice.
Hey!
Nice.
And I full reveal. I'm not in full outfit. There was an extra bit of accoutrement that came with it that I neglected to reveal, so I'll reveal it now.
King Gil.
That's fantastic. Yes.
So I won't wear it because it doesn't quite fit, but I don't know if it'll. But yeah, that there was this, and I'm sorry if I'm blinding anybody, but yes, Saturday was my 50th birthday, and yeah, I got this along with so much else. Yeah.
It was such a fun day. A little behind the scenes, we were able to celebrate with Gil through a similar conversation to what we're doing right now, on the Zoom platform, and kind of surprise him with a nice little get together with lots of friends. And I know that others wanted to make it, but technical difficulties. But it was a great opportunity for a bunch of us to get together and celebrate with him, even if we couldn't be there all in that moment. We could all at least show up, say hi, give him our best, and contribute to the party virtually, if you will. And so it was a fun time, and happy birthday again, Gil. And I'm excited that the Caps were able to get a win for you later on that day.
Yeah, it was a very good day, and thanks all of you guys who participated in that. It was you two and a bunch of old friends from high school. Pete Fisher, who's met up with you guys before. Another old friend of mine, Lisa Bear Goldberg, who I don't know if she still does it, but she did bouting, roller derby for a while. I don't know if she still does it, but that's her thing. And my old friend Ed Conley, who actually does a radio show once a week for a low power FM station out of Tacoma Park. So thanks all of you for helping make it special. And yeah, it was just it was a pretty big surprise seeing everybody.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm sad that I was having problems with my finding my laptop, and I'm sad I missed the grand reveal moment, but I am happy that I was able to catch most of it. So I'm sure that was. How did she end up revealing it to you that it was going to happen? Did you just like turn on the computer and it was there, or what was that moment?
So I got shanghaied into going there, and then I got called into the room. I thought I was being tricked into fixing a computer problem. Then I was just told to sit down and turn on the camera, and then boom, everything was there. So that Nothing too special, but yeah, that's pretty much
Surprise.
how it worked. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm happy that we're able to do that, and people in chat on Twitch are saying happy birthday to you as well. So thank you to
Thanks,
Carl.
guys.
Yeah, it was fun. So we don't have a ton of games to talk about today, so we can kind of have it be a little bit more laid back and more of a forward-thinking Capitals podcast. Since we do have a big slate of games coming up, including next week we'll do a watch along, which we know how successful those have been for us. I say sarcastically if you can.
I'm thinking, are you sure that's a good idea?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I don't schedule it. Luckily, there was only 5 this year on Mondays. We counted them, so less than there could have been, and less than have been in previous years. So, yeah, has not been the best luck for us in the past, but who knows? We have had some success. Actually, our greatest success is when we do pre-game shows, but with having to put 2 children to bed before doing the podcast, my days of doing 7 o'clock podcasts are past. That's why I appreciate you guys all staying up till 9 with me, so I can do it afterwards. I literally behind the scenes got Zach to bed at 8:55, so like 5 minutes before we turn on the camera. So it's quite a frantic mad dash to make it in time for my own show. But I'm so happy we got to celebrate those. So let's go back in time and have you break down. Gil, I have to say your podcast this week was very good. I really enjoyed it tremendously.
Thank you very much.
Especially the joke at the end, and then if you stay through the outro, a little extra funny joke at the end, which I did catch. It's important that you listen all the way through, fans.
Little Easter egg we throw in there sometimes after the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know that they exist. So I always
After the credits? Oh, I have to go back and listen.
Yeah, exactly. So
I turned it off. Well, I was listening to it right before I got on here, so I was running a little short on time. So I'll go back and listen to the.
I actually listened to it while I was driving around doing some chores pre-picking up my kids today. So it was a great listen setting up for that. And it really helped me set up what we'll talk about tonight because, in fact, we were talking about the same games. But I do want you to maybe break them down in a similar fashion, too. I thought you did a really good job, Gil, on both of those games, both the back and forth nature of the first game against, who you think could be the champions again, and then I thought your breakdown of the lack of officiating in the second game was spot on.
Yeah.
Probably won't go through the whole rant again, but I mean, feel free to rant about some of those same moments in case people on this show didn't get to check that one out. But we'll go back and we'll do the first game first. But I highly encourage people to go check out all of this show. Anna does a great job as well. I know that Anna would want to be here. She's got family things today, and thank you, C4, for even with a hobbled arm stepping in and joining us for the conversation. But let's go back to that first game against Colorado. That was not a great Valentine's Day. Gil, do you want to break down? Do you have the scoring to?
I have it. Yeah. So if you're following along in the app, I'm in the summary page of the 6-3 game against Colorado. So quickly running down the scoring, the Caps fell behind 246 and Ross Colton, his 11th, Wooden Lehkonen on the assist. Devon Taves, who's a very underrated defenseman, I think. Summary page of the 6-3 game and so he got his 9th. Johansson Cogliano on the assist there. And with 5 minutes into the game, Caps are already behind. And we're thinking doom and gloom again, but not to be, because several minutes later, Beck Malenstein and Faravari and Dowd would combine on his 5th goal, bring them within 2-1 at 9:16. And then just 44 seconds later, Connor McMichael with a nice rebound from the mishap of the game previous with his 8th, Anthony Mantha on the assist that goal. So 10 minutes into the game, and Caps have pulled even with one of the best teams in the league. Well, they fell behind again in the second period, about 10 minutes in. Lehkonen and at 8:50, with his fourth and Mikko Rantanen his 29th, would put the Avalanche up 4-2 at 17:03 on a power play. Caps would pull within one, and this was I can't quite even. I should have researched this a bit, but I'm sure this was like his second or third in the streak of games for the goals he's had. Alex Ovechkin, his 14th, might be his fourth in the
It
streak.
was actually after you mentioned that on stream, it was his fourth because he had one before
Mm-hmm.
the break.
Okay.
So, and then 'cause I know that within the point streak, he had a assist, and then he had 6 games with a goal in a row, and then on your birthday, he continued it with an assist. So he's still streaking, even if he's not having a goal scoring one right now. So I remember I went back and double checked that.
Well, if he's streaking, I hope he's not doing it in front of the police. So anyway, so he gets a goal at 9 minutes into the third on the power play, and the Caps had actually pulled within one, and they were playing decently. I thought, even though they only got 9 shots on goal in the third period, but it's feast or famine. They usually stage a big comeback or they kind of die out. This was kind of in between that, but I don't think they played all that bad. It's just the result wasn't quite what we wanted it to be, and then they decided to pull Kemper, and then yeah, it just the empty net goals just came a pouring down for the Avalanche, like an avalanche, and so they got too late, and that kind of skewed the score a little bit. I don't think the Caps played really a horrible game, much like they did in their first meeting with Colorado, but again, just not really not enough firepower is what it came down to against a team like Colorado. So, not the result we wanted, but much better effort overall. I was thinking, I think we were all thinking, as long as they showed up and acquitted themselves a lot better than they did the first meeting, I think that's all we could hope for here. And I would say for the most part that's what we got. So 6-3, and yeah, like I said, couple empty netters, and literally the last minute of the game for the Avalanche. Power play was 1 for 3. I like seeing them come alive. Um, they're pretty physical in this game. 26 hits, so they were into it. They were up for this game for sure. So I liked it. I liked the overall effort. Didn't like the result, of course, but I liked the overall effort they came with.
Yeah, this one hurt a lot less than the first one, even though the score was nearly identical, because it was 6-2 the first game. But just this, I think this one we just played a little bit harder. Also, not that it's an excuse, but we were on our home ice, which always well, not always, but theoretically we play better. But we weren't in that mile high air. They didn't look as fatigued. They didn't look as flat. They looked, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they much better effort. So yeah, it hurts we lost. It stings, but not near as bad as when we played them in Colorado.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. It was it's a younger team, not as experienced team, certainly not as experienced coach, against, again, one of the top teams in the league, and
yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. If I would be shocked if Colorado doesn't win it this year, or if they lose it, it's very close. You know what I mean?
I think they're at a minimum they're going to make the final.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They'll be in the
I would
finals.
be surprised if they don't come out of the West.
Yeah. The East is a bit more
a mess.
Yeah.
I liked Anna's pick from Florida. It might be a pick for the East. It'll be interesting to see if they hold on.
I would not be surprised if Florida repeats as the East champ, but they might run into some problems. If they run into the Flyers in the first or second round, that's going to be a very interesting series, because you're going to have the rough and tumble Panthers versus John Tortorella, who knows how to get a team to lock it down in the playoffs. So that's going to be a very interesting first or second round matchup if that comes around. But it's all going to depend on the draw, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I would watch out for that. But I think Florida is good to come out of the East. I think if you want a dark horse, maybe Toronto. Also, they're the long running joke is they're the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. Everybody their fan base seems to always think it's their year, and it never turns out to be their year. But
Yeah, but
it
they're
it
not quite as outspoken to be polite about it as
well
the Cowboys
depends on
fans.
depends on where you go.
Okay.
Depends on where you go. They have a pretty solid presence on Twitter for sure.
Well, I was being polite. I don't think they're cocksure, arrogant. Hockey fans just a lot of times are just different.
Everybody pulling out their thesauruses this weekend.
I know. I just heard Anna's yesterday.
Yeah.
The Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. I was happy to see they come back. They were down 2-0. They could have folded.
Yes.
I thought they were going to fold. They scored 2 goals right back, got themselves right back into the game. Fortunately,
Yeah.
it's tough third. But then Ovi scores, makes it 4-3, and then there's 2 empty netters that make it a lot worse looking than it really was. I mean, so they put this together a good effort. These are the type of losses you can build from. I think that they use some of that maybe as momentum into the next game, which you kind of have to do in the NHL and the grind of it, especially in the February
Yeah.
games. Let's get into that birthday game for Gil. Mantha scoring first was fantastic. He's been playing great as of late. And I ended up not wearing I had the Mantha shirt right over there, but I ended up wearing, since we're doing an All-Star and a Capitals TJ Oshie thing, so I'm wearing the TJ Oshie All-Star. I saw that you're wearing
I'm wearing the Osh jersey.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was so happy that Oshie got the next one, a power play goal, assist by Strome, and Ovechkin kept his point streak alive, as I was mentioning earlier. Because I think it's important. I don't need Ovi to score a goal every night. Of course, I want him to break the record. There's I don't know if you saw the piece that came out that was translated this week about Ovechkin saying that this would probably be his last contract. I still stand by the fact that if in 2 years he's within 20 goals of the great one, I don't see why he wouldn't come back on a year-to-year contract basis. But I don't know. He just doesn't seem like a guy that would quit so close. But it just depends on how close and how he's feeling as he gets up to that point, which is. We have seen him slow down a little bit, but he is still on quite a heater. I'm happy to say that, I thought that when we had our show last week, that would jinx him and that would be the end of it. He was still able to score a goal, in that following game. So that was good. And so I believe it was 6 in a row that he had got a goal in. So in the
I
end.
believe that's right. Yeah.
So that was a power play goal. It makes it 2-1. Unfortunately, in the second period, they tied it. Sonny Milano, a great goal. So happy to see him back in the lineup. He's such a spark
Yeah.
plug.
This was his first game back, right?
Yeah, first
Yes.
game back. He scored.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still haven't planted my Milano chia head thing, so
Oh, nice. You'll have to keep us updated in the
I have
springtime.
to plant it at some point. I just haven't done it yet.
Is there a better time of year to do chia pets? Or doesn't that really
It's indoors, so you can pretty much do it anytime you want.
Yeah. Max Pacioretty had his 8th assist of the season, and Joel Edmondson his 3rd. Made it 3-2. Unfortunately, Nick Suzuki tied it on the power play. Just a few minutes later, he is such a great player. I mean, it sucks because we shouldn't have that call. I don't know. It's just some bad officiating. I'll let Gil rant in a second about the officiating in this game. But I'm so excited that Alexi Protas got the goal. He also had an assist on that Anthony Mantha goal in that first one. I thought he had. I know he wasn't in the top 3 stars, but in my book, he was definitely a top 3 star in the game. I thought he brought his A game and some of the best stuff we've seen from him. And obviously getting the game winner, I was actually kind of shocked that and I believe Mantha had a great game. Don't get me wrong; he was the number 1 star, but I
Right.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, because Oshie, he scored the 1 goal, and that was
Right, but they're
it.
saying 300, and it's hometown.
Well, yeah, and he was,
And
yeah,
remember,
it
it's
was
the
his 500th
hometown
goal.
media that decides it, so it's Montreal's media, not
Oh, okay.
yeah. So that's kind of the
Gosh,
fun thing about the 3 stars. People don't realize it's the hometown
I
media
had, I
helps
had no
decide.
idea.
Yeah. And that's why you get Nick Suzuki there in the 2nd star, which it was a big goal. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah, it was a huge goal.
but obviously that had an effect. So, yeah, that was a very exciting game. I have to say, Gil, I got very nervous after we lost our 3rd lead. Because usually in hockey, if you blow a lead 3 times, you don't get a 4th opportunity. I mean, and that's not always the case. Sometimes you get lucky and you get it again. But there's something about where it's just getting sucked out of you, and then it's tied again late in the game. The other team's been hanging around, and they find a way to win, right? So it was really good that we buckled down even after giving up the lead 3 different times and got the lead 4 different times on your birthday. So that's an a difficult thing that people might overlook. But what were some of your thoughts on that game, Gil?
Kind of like old time cartoons where they jump in the water and they go down for the 3rd time and they don't come back up.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
or the
Right.
rug is slipped out from under them. It just keeps on happening. They just don't trust it anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was a little nervous about that, but you mentioned it before. It was in the Colorado game. They didn't give up. They came back from first 2 goals down and then pulled within 1 when they got the 3rd goal. So some of that character that is finally starting to show for this team in that they're coming together as a team and doing what is necessary to stay in the game. So that I think is key. And we mentioned this on the most recent episode. This is a pretty tight knit locker room. They don't want to see anybody go. So they're playing for their lives right now, literally. They don't really want to see anybody traded out because the team, the season's over. They have no hope of making the playoffs. They got a lot of life in them, and that's why you're going to see some fight. I don't know that they're going to get the result that they're going to get. There's a lot of tough teams they got to face here. We're going to talk about that down the road, but you're going to see a lot of effort, ramped up effort and fight in this team, and it was really great to see. And yeah, Anna and I were really pleased that Protus ended up getting what was the game-winning goal for sure. I think you're going to see a lot of good things from him.
I love that kid.
Real quickly,
I
because I
love
do
that
want to
kid.
get C4's thoughts on this game and a bunch of stuff. But there's a lot to unpack there, Gil, in the sense of what do we do about the future? I wish we had done better with this lineup and got that chemistry together during the easier part of the schedule. If you look ahead in the big picture, we have one of the most difficult remaining schedules in the entire hockey league. So it does
Yeah.
not do us any favors down the stretch. We had to get good early with a new coach and a new system. So we kind of got screwed this year in a lot of ways in the scheduling department, as that tends to seem to happen to us. But we didn't do well in the easy part. It's going to be hard to do really well in the hard part and play catch up and jump a lot of teams. So because it's
Wouldn't
not
it be
about
funny if we did though?
yeah, and talk about character, driving. If they could somehow sneak to 8th and then they've built their team through fortifying and they did a little bit of that in 2018. If you remember, they almost played themselves out of it, and people wanted Holpe's head, and Gruby came back and stole some games, and we snuck in, right? People forget about that part of the story, but it was an important part because I think that it showed them grit, and they were down in every one of those series, so they had to show that grit in the playoffs to come through in the end. So it's just interesting that you have to kind of build that character. It's just going to be really tough. But C4, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
In spite of the questionable at best officiating,
Oy.
um, it was a lot of fun to watch. And what I particularly liked watching was after it was tied in the 3rd period, We kept playing. We didn't play. A lot of times this year, we played for overtime. We sat back and we're like, they're like, we're just gonna let this game go into overtime and we'll play overtime. They kept playing and it paid off. And hopefully they carry that on in future games, because that was the best part for me, was just the fact that they kept playing in that third period. They kept grinding. They kept trying to get shots on goal. They had the shot attempts. The thing that I wanted to see, though, and I mentioned this to Gil in a separate chat, they used to on the app have this thing called game flow, which kind of showed you how much time was spent in each zone.
Mhm.
I found that very helpful. And it was an interesting thing for me to look at, because we did spend an awful lot of time in the defensive zone. But I want to know exactly how much, because I'm not sure. Because a lot of times I'm like, are we really spending that much time there, or is it just me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes.
It is. And that's why I really liked that game flow thing. So NHL app people, if you're listening, put that back.
Yeah, well, they didn't really do the whole thing. They just go back
Yeah.
to last year's version and reboot. Like they was fine
Yeah.
last year, and they
Yeah.
they fucked it all
Yeah.
up, and I hated that. And so like they really ruined the app. It was my favorite app, and it's gone to like top 10 least favorite apps now. Like as one of the largest app plummets in my, I never go to it anymore. I'd rather just go to Yahoo Sports at this point because it's so terrible. And it's disappointing because once upon a time, the Caps had their own app and they could decide what they wanted on it. And then they merged with the NHL, and the NHL slowly started taking away the parts you liked and put
Yep.
the parts you don't care about. And now they're really like, look at the NHL as a whole. Like, I don't give a fuck. I just want about the Capitals. Like, stop. Like, stop with your
exactly.
like shoving it down my throat. Like, care about the NHL. It's like, I don't care. Like, I do a Capitals podcast. Like, get over it. Like, it's frustrating.
But it was nice to see them keep playing when they tied it up in the third, so we didn't go into overtime, because usually my thoughts when it's tied up like that are like, oh God, here we go, overtime. Sorry.
Yeah.
But no, it was all in all, it was a fun game to watch. In spite of the questionable at best.
Oh, it had a good pace to it. It had a great pace to it. There wasn't any point in the game where you're like, okay, guys, get it together, quit dancing around, and get some sort of a rush. There was 65 shots total on net in this game, and probably 1.5 times that many actual shots directed towards the net. So yeah, good pace, good entertaining game to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I want to thank Prestige for the gift sub to the fearless leader of the web creative community, low base guy. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone for tuning in across things. I know that we're live on many different platforms. We got Greg and Troy joining us on the True Radio Network Facebook page. I'm sorry that it was a little harder to find. I did share it out to a couple of groups, so hopefully people are able to see that now. So the only way Florida and Philly can meet in the first round is if one of them is a wild card, which is true. Philly could be a wild card, so that's very possible. I also, speaking of, there have been some scoring updates. Ottawa Senators defeat Tampa Bay Lightning 4-2 thanks to ScoreBot app. Also, Carolina Hurricanes defeat the Chicago Blackhawks 6-3.
Well, that's no surprise.
So that is some of the scoring updates. Thanks to the ScoreBot for putting those into chat for me. I don't have to look them up, which is kind of nice. And so, yeah, shout out to the ScoreBot app, also Pokemon community game. Later today, we'll be talking about streaming and advice for streamers as part of the 11 o'clock hour. People had some questions, and so I thought I would answer them live on air, and we might even clip that up into separate how-to videos for that. So stay tuned if you care about streaming on the Twitch channel a little bit later, teaching people how to add the Pokemon game to their stream, as well as things like the sports bot if people want to have that as well. So let's get into the week ahead. I was happy with the results. We were hoping to go 1-1 going into this week. It's a big week for us. We've got 3 games to preview, and then kind of talk about what we're talking about next week on the podcast. The first one is the Devils, who had an incredibly interesting game. I really liked what they did with the outdoor game this year, having 2 games at the same location. So they maximize the effort put forth, because I always feel like they put a lot of effort into these things and you have 1 game and then it's kind of kaput.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of smart to do 2. It gets more eyes on it, especially one was, on one day, one was on the next day, so it's not the same day kind of thing. So the rink has a chance to reset. They
Yeah.
did have to delay it a little bit because a lot of direct sunshine on it, but that's fine. Delay it 45 minutes. Was an incredible game between the Islanders and the Rangers in
Yeah.
game 2 of that. We got a feel for the Islanders in losing in that fashion to the Rangers. I hate both teams, so it's hard for me to feel too terrible. But it was disappointing that it went to overtime. In some ways, I kind of wish the Islanders had won in regulation because they both got points in that. But fantastic hockey game, and what a comeback for the Rangers and for Panarin specifically.
Now, I will say this, as much as I dislike the 4-letter network, they did give a good explanation on why that goal at the end counted.
Yeah, I agree. So people missed what happened. The net came flying off, but it was the defender that knocked it off. And if you had watched the trajectory of the puck as it was shot and it was already had left the stick, it would have gotten past the goalie if the net was in. And so they said that was a good goal. You can't just avoid a goal by knocking off the post, which is,
Right.
legitimate, because people would just bump that thing all the time right before a
Right.
goal. If
And I'm not sure he intentionally knocked it off. It was
did
kind of
not,
hard to
but
tell.
it
But
doesn't really matter. He is the one
point
who
is,
knocked
it
it off.
was the
And it
yeah.
wasn't necessarily one guy knocking him into it. He did it
No.
kind of his own volition.
Yeah,
He's probably
I think he
fine
was
at
trying
it,
to make it look like he didn't mean to do it, but
but and I don't
maybe
think
he
he
did.
meant to do it, but he coming in too fast. But that's still like,
Yeah.
you coming in too fast doesn't give you a
Right.
pass.
But they said it was, whether it was intentional or not, it doesn't matter if the defending
Right.
team. So,
Plays
and
it.
that's
And
one
that's
thing that they do have. That's one thing, as much as I don't like the commentary, if there is a rule question, they do actually have somebody there that explains the rule. So I do like that part of their broadcast. But those games were fun to watch. I love watching the outdoor games. They are just, I don't know, something about them is just, it just seems more natural if I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I agree. And then, but the previous game, which is what I was starting with, but it was an exciting thing.
Yeah.
Both games was New Jersey played Philly, and the Devils fans went wild. And I kind of love that the Devil. I don't know if you saw this, stole Gritty's clothes, right?
I heard about it. I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
Pretty hilarious.
They went out. They went all out for
Did you see
one.
where the Gritty and
The
the Devil
new,
threw the cake at the guy in the Rangers jersey? What hit him in the face?
I missed that, but
below the belt.
I did see where they kind of where they were. It was like pregame or something. They got together and they were throwing a ball into a trash can to see who would make it, and they were cheering each other on. I did see that, and they went all out to hype this game up. They had the one team. They had Philly. Philly was all dressed up in the Rocky sweatsuit
Yeah, I
outfit
love
as they were
that.
coming off the bus,
I saw that.
and the Devils were all dressed as the Sopranos characters, and it was fun.
Yeah, I thought that they did a really good job with it. And I think that's cool because all 4 teams are in that same area. And it was interesting to see. It says it's the highest attended Rangers game outdoors of all time. So, and the Rangers now move on to, I believe it's 6-0 in outdoor games, which is now the record. So,
Monty is now 1-3-1 in
yeah,
outdoor games.
interesting.
He was 0-3-1 in outdoor games until yesterday.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't even really put that together. But so New Jersey looked pretty good in that outdoor game against Philly. I'll give them credit, and a lot of New Jersey fans at that game. They really showed out. I don't know if I had seen that many Devils fans ever, but it was impressive to see them come out and all the teams really fill that stadium, because what a cool big stadium to do for hockey. So I thought it was a really cool event. So I got to give the NHL props for that, because I've kind of been so on the Winter Classics lately. But I thought that they did this one right, even if it's not technically a Winter Classic. So anyway, we're playing the Devils next. So they'll be coming off of that game, which
I hate playing the Devils.
yeah.
Because even if we go up on them, they always find a way to make it interesting, if not outright win.
I mean, they started that game fast. They scored in the first 32 seconds in. Got two goals in the first. Philly got one back. Then they got two more goals, and Philly got one, and then it was back and forth. But yeah, it's just I don't know. The Devils are fast, and they're a good team, and they should not be overlooked. And they'll have some momentum coming off that big win, for sure. So
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be an interesting matchup in that one. And then they're doing the Florida double dip. So Thursday, Saturday, Tampa Bay first at 7, on Saturday at 6. We got Florida, two very tough teams. That is always a really rough road trip. So if we can squeak one of those games, and then next Monday, Ottawa, 7 o'clock, which means for the third period, we'll be covering it live on this show next week, right here. So, yeah, exactly. It will be a rough one, I think, but we'll see. I mean, we could beat Ottawa. I think. I don't know. Ottawa's pretty good
I
this
think
year.
Marcus is going to that game.
Oh, nice.
I haven't been cleared to go yet, so
Okay.
I'm still on IRs in terms of attending games right yet.
We should have him go and zoom in but mute, and then we can have his feed as the live feed on
Oh, there we
Zoom.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah, you definitely want him on mute if when he's at a hockey game.
She
So,
said it, not me.
but yeah, that would be pretty funny if you had like a live
I
video.
know him well.
Yeah.
I've been to many hockey games with him.
Now we
So
all
he's
have.
not that bad. He's not that bad. He's really not that bad.
Um,
Um,
so yeah, so that'll be an interesting matchup. So we'll start there with New Jersey, Gil, and then the Florida double dip into the Ottawa game. What are your thoughts on the road ahead?
I'm actually a little optimistic on the first two games. The Jersey, we've actually played them pretty well. I think if somehow we can duplicate the effort in the first game, where they were kind of held off for the most part, except for a freakish second period. I think they'll do well. I don't think this is going out on a limb, but I would definitely say we have the edge in goaltending in this matchup. I don't care who they put in net, even if it's Vanacek. But yeah, that we definitely have the edge in goaltending, especially if Lindgren starts, which I think he will.
I think he should.
Jack Hughes is feeling it lately, but I think if you get a Tom Wilson or somebody that really can get under his skin, I think Jack Hughes has got a lot of talent, but he's got his maturity has been called into question recently. So I think if you pester him enough, you can goad him into a stupid penalty. So there's that factor, I think. But they definitely have the edge in goaltending. They still have top quality forward lines. Heischer and Hughes, as I mentioned, and Tyler Toffoli, I think, is still with them, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, their attack is something to be handled, but unlike Colorado, I think we got a good shot at handling these guys, because they ought to be doing better and they're not. So I'm optimistic about that game. Tampa Bay has looked vulnerable a lot. Case in point, their most recent game against Ottawa. I think they're going to treat the Caps the same way, like we do with some teams, play down to the level of competition. So I wouldn't be surprised. Of course, Steven Stamkos never really gets a whole lot of attention. He should, but he's having a pretty good year. So watch for him for sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm not too down on this game, but it can go either way. And then there's Florida, and yeah, that we saw what they can do, and they completely tilted the ice. And I'm not seeing that won't be more of the same, but you never know.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Well, we have won two of the three we've played against New Jersey so far, and we won them quite handily. I think, if I'm looking at this, let me get back here. Well, the first one was 6-4, but then we in 4-2, so they've been fairly close. They've been 2-point games. Then they beat us 6-3, so it's not it's not that it's. I'm with Gil. I think, given our record with them, we can beat them. It's just a matter of we have to keep playing because New Jersey will not stop. We've seen it happen many times over the years where we've had a lead and they've come back.
Yeah, can't get behind early.
Oh, no.
We have to start fast.
And if we get ahead, we have to keep playing to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Jersey, Jersey's forward lines definitely. They've got more.
They don't go away.
They got more legs on them than 10 chorus lines. So they will outrace you as when they can. But if you can contain them, and they can be contained,
they can. We've done it.
Then you got it. Right. Then you've got the edge.
We've done it, and I think we can do it. And I think our defense has improved a lot over the last few games. It's not still far from perfect, but they are playing a lot better. And we were only playing with 5 the other night. Or was it yesterday?
Yeah. Well, building. Well, right. Exactly. I was just going to say, unfortunately, we're going to be without probably who's been the best overall all-around defenseman all year in Farivari. That bothers me quite a bit because the official word on him is week to week, which is code for, well, it might be a week and then it might be a month. So we don't know but this can be a good thing in that it opens the door for an Alex Alexiev, who I know has been champing at the bit to get some ice time. And I think it's high time he got some ice time.
Damn straight.
He's well rested. I don't think he's really been that bad. I think he's just a victim of a numbers game. Honestly, I think he's more deserving than Ethan Bear has been. If we're being honest with ourselves. So I'd love to see him crack the lineup. And maybe, if by then they decided to give up on Edmondson or we get a good offer on him, maybe if he's gone by then, maybe call up. Well, he slots in for sure, but if you
Iorio.
You deplete your bench lineup, maybe give Iorio a call up and see what he can do for a couple of games.
Yeah,
for sure.
And he's been up. Like he was up for a few games last year, and
he was.
And he held his own. He held his own.
He deserves another look this year for sure.
I think. Absolutely agree. So I think New Jersey's doable if we keep playing. I haven't paid as much attention to Tampa and Florida as Gil has. So other than knowing how we've played against them in the past, again, Tampa could go either way. If we can contain Stamkos, I think, because Tampa doesn't really have anybody other than Stamkos really that can score. Do they?
Well, Braden Point is more of a setup guy. He can score. He can hurt you by scoring goals, but he's more of a setup guy. So really,
I forgot about. How can I forget Kucherov?
Yeah, Kucherov, also happens to lead the league in points, but
right. And then of course there's Vasilevsky. We've managed to get around. Let's see. They only beat us 2-1 back in December. So I think we can certainly keep up with them.
Yeah, I don't think Tampa's going to be too big of a challenge, but Colorado Light is what I like to call them. They've
Okay.
got weapons where if you fall behind to them too fast, you bury yourself. But
Yeah.
they don't have that lockdown, that intimidation factor that
Right.
they lock down the game after that. They really don't. So I
then-
think that can go either way for sure.
Yeah, and then Florida's just Florida. You've got Kachuk and Verhage.
Yeah,
Okay.
Florida is if they, I,
They're
I
a
hate
different beast.
they are, they totally are, and I hate to write this game off, but if the Caps lose, or hang within no more than two, fall behind by no more than two at any point in the game, I think they should consider it a victory. But yeah, I
Yeah.
hate to write the game off, but I think that's the best they can
Well,
hope for.
the first game we lost 4-3 in overtime. The second game we lost 4-2 in regulation. So not horrible losses.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going back and looking at all the
Yeah,
stats for the games.
it's
I'm just
tough
looking at the
to go
scores. But
to Florida. I think if it was in Washington, I'd feel like we have a chance. I don't know. I'm kind
yeah, in
of,
Florida, yeah,
I do
I
want,
think it's
we don't talk about standings that often, but we do have a couple of moments more. I just want to give people a sense of where things stand, where we are right now. Florida is the top of the Atlantic, followed by Boston and Toronto. And the top of the Metropolitan, we have the Rangers with 75 points, followed by Carolina with 71. So it's just 2 wins separate them. And then Philly is right behind them with 65. And then the Devils have 60, Islanders 58, we have 56, Pittsburgh 55. So it's all still very close. And Detroit,
yeah, and we have we have games in hand on all these guys. So
a couple.
we have games in hand on the Rangers. We have 2 games in hand on the Rangers, Carolina, 3
Yeah.
games in hand on Philly, and a game in hand each on New Jersey and the Islanders.
Right.
So
And
we're
also
not
Detroit too. We have 2 games in hand over them, and they're actually the
Mhm.
last wild card spot at 64.
Right.
So that would be 60 to 64 if we get wins. But again, we talked
So-
about earlier. It's just gonna be tough to get these wins against some of these really tough teams.
right.
So
Exactly. We're heading. So I mean, there's a chance we could sneak in. We're not that far out if you look at that whole big picture. But again, like you said, and like Gillis said, we've got the challenging teams coming up now. We've got the Floridas,
it's
we've got the
exciting.
Jerseys, we've got
Yeah.
Ottawa shouldn't be too bad. Detroit shouldn't be too horribly bad. But then we've got Philadelphia, we've got Pittsburgh coming up in March. We've got Winnipeg, Seattle, Vancouver, Toronto, Carolina. Carolina's coming up in April. We got Boston coming up actually, or at the end of March and in April. So
not to jump too far ahead, but that
yeah.
West Coast trip is going to be real make or break time.
Oh yeah.
But it's a big opportunity right now. You got New Jersey Devils sitting at the 3rd wild card spot, top 2 make it. Tampa Bay in the number 1 wild card spot. So this week, you're trying to jump teams. Here you have head to head. You can beat them in regulation. That will, it's a 4-point swing if you beat them in regulation. It's 2 points they're not getting and 2 points that you are. So these are big teams in the wild card standings, race. And that's really kind of what I think we should be aiming for. I think getting to be a top 3 at this point would be difficult, but it would be a lot better if we could get out of the wild card. But
so we got a total of 6 points on the line coming up. I'll be happy if we get
4. I'm looking for 4.
4, 3. I'd be happy even with 3.
Yeah.
We take somebody overtime.
I agree. Yeah. Heck, I'd be happy if we got all 3 to overtime and win one, if you get 5, like that'd be
good.
It'd be huge.
Yeah. Then you get 5?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. 3. Yeah.
Oh,
whatever.
No, it's 4. You're right. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, anyway, it'll be interesting. Well, I think we've kind of done it for our Hockey Talk segment. Gil's podcast is wonderful. You should definitely go give it a listen, especially his rant of the refereeing in the second game, which we didn't fully get into in today's podcast. But I think he does a good job of literally putting their names out there, putting a spotlight on them, and talking about how it really almost threw that game. And I'm happy that the Caps were able to face not only adversity with having multiple leads get extinguished, but also against the refs that did everything in their power to try to extinguish their chances in this game. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
but anyway, it's a great listen. It's not too long. It's only a 42-minute, 43-minute show. And so
Mhm.
people, it's funny. What I love to do is I listen to it to double speed, which so it takes out all the pauses between it. I do it while I'm driving. And so it gets right in there. And you get it done in 25 minutes. It's great. And, I get all the big highlights. I had all my thoughts for tonight's show. It's a fantastic way to sort of summarize it and get it. And that's one of the advantages of listening back versus live shows because there's going to be uhs and ums and pauses. So I do like that about audio podcasts.
I'm not going to complain, except I sound like Alvin Simon and/or Theodore if
I
you
think
do
you
that.
actually sound great when you do it. If you actually did it, because Podbean, give them credit, they actually have a speed up function.
They do. They do.
Do that, and it plays it nicely, and it just literally takes out the breaks, which is what you want. So so kudos to them for figuring that out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm gonna let C4 give her final thoughts, and then Gil, any final thoughts? And once again, happy birthday, Gil, to you as well. But C4, what are your final thoughts?
All in all, pretty good week for the Caps. I mean, not the best, not the worst. I'm happy with the effort they put out and stuff. Mentioning podcasts, we kind of touched a little bit, danced around trading. Marcus on his Capitals Off Their Chains podcast, which is on Spotify, did the other night a very mini solo podcast, his thoughts on the upcoming trade deadline. But I'm sort of on IR for that one, so I haven't been on there in a couple weeks. But that one's sort of posted at random. But all in all, I'm looking forward to the week ahead. I think we're looking forward to some good games if the boys keep putting out this effort. And even if we lose, as long as they keep putting out that effort and keep playing and playing hard, I'm going to be very happy with them. So
yeah, I'm happy.
And,
I'm happy to see.
I would love to see us. I would love to see us sneak into the playoffs. I honestly don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, I would too. Mostly because it's more fun to cover the playoffs if we're in it. I would like to just to show that effort that we can, be gutsy and get us in there, even if we don't make a run. Maybe makes it seem like they made the right choices with some of these guys. I know there's a lot of question marks surrounding this team, a lot of people, and so I would love those question marks to at least get answered with, "Hey, we made a run at it. We did the best we could with who we got." That's, as a fan, that's all you can really hope for. And if you're a fan that's not outrageous, I'm like some fans throw out some crazy things online, but as someone who's gone through it like the three of us have over the course of 25 plus years, it's you got to be even keel about it. We've gone through much worse scenarios, and it's sometimes you read some of these cap groups and just everything is falling apart, and it's not the case.
Yeah, I've kind of dropped a bunch of them.
Yeah,
I think I'm only like in 2 or 3 now.
Yeah, you're smart. I shouldn't read it. I like to get the pulse of it, so I wait for the podcast to understand, where the fans are at with it. But holy moly, sometimes I wish I didn't know. But C4, thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll have you back on for the watch along party next week if you're willing to. I understand because sometimes people don't like to have the camera on them when they're watching exciting third period. So I never make that one a mandatory. So we'll talk.
I may have to mute a little bit, or if I turn the camera off or mute, yeah.
Yeah, there we'll know. So
or I'll just do the finger judge off camera.
But maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe not. But thank you for coming on this week, and we'll definitely.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yep. And Gil, final thoughts from you.
If we're doing the watch along next week, I'll be practicing Santeria, maybe burning some incense. Maybe that'll kind of wreck the juju.
Backwards ball caps, like
the juju that we've been having. But in all seriousness, I echo what C4 said about this team. It's not, it's on paper they're not probably not going to get it done. But this is how they've been playing the last week and a half is what I've been looking forward to, and I've been trying to get Caps fans to look forward to and see all year long. They finally hit that stride. So I'm really optimistic in what they can do. Maybe they won't get the result that we want, but it's what they can do and what the effort that they put forth that and how they get there that everybody needs to keep their eye on.
Okay, right before we go, I realized that we did miss talking about one piece of news and notes, and that was a waiver line acquisition that where a Penguins team picked up one of our former players. I do want to get Gills. He didn't have a particularly good game in his one game for the Penguins so far. What are your thoughts on him not making it to the Hershey Bears?
I was a little surprised, but then again, it is the Penguins, and I think part of it, the most part of it, was the fact that Jake Gensel just went down with an injury. Matt Phillips is no Jake Gensel by any stretch, or in any
Not
league.
many people are.
Or yeah. But that had most to do with it. I think I can't help but think also that they were trying to stick it to the Caps by saying, ha, we got this guy who used to play for you, and we're going to figure out what he knows and what he can do, and we're going to use it against you, especially since they've got a game coming up against them in about 2-3 weeks. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they keep him just long enough to get through that game, and then they try to put him back to the waiver wire, and we reacquire him and put him in Hershey.
Which is a possibility.
Yes, so we get first right of refusal back, and he then goes straight to Hershey. We don't have to put him through waivers again for people who don't know how that works, because it is slightly complicated for the average
You
fan.
gotta wonder if there isn't some deal going on in that background. For whatever reason, they couldn't put him in. Why couldn't he? Why was there a reason he couldn't go to Hershey? I mean,
No, he could have. They needed a body, so they picked him up.
Right. No, I mean, so I know I'm cutting into time a little bit for your next segment. I apologize. So explain to me kind of how someone like why was he put on waivers instead of just sent down to Hershey?
I'll explain that real quickly. So the waiver basically, certain players have contracts that are two-way contracts where you can directly send them down no matter what. If you don't have that contract, different levels of contracts exist based on how much it is valued at, and so it'll have an impact. So you have to basically say, hey, anybody, do you want to take it at this higher value? And you get to claim him right now, and he goes right to your team. Or if no one does, then he gets a rated part of that salary to play for your minor league affiliate team. I think that's right. You'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, that's I'd say that's about 95% correct. There's a little other caveat in there in that amongst the levels you mentioned, there are some players that are waiver exempt, and depending upon which category that you mentioned that they fall into, that's how it largely breaks down to. And Phillips just happened to not fall into that category because of the structure of his contract. Okay. So that's why.
So short version is it depends on how their contract's written.
Right. So if you put a guy through waivers and he's not waiver exempt, then any team can claim him. But like Robbie said, within 30 days, if they put him back, Pittsburgh puts him back on waivers, we have right of first refusal, and then we can claim him back. And if we do, which I'm assuming they would, they'd put him back in Hershey.
Okay.
You don't have to bring him back to the big thing, which is the part that is important for anybody.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there you go. No, I'm happy that we discuss it because it's not something that is often discussed on this show, podcast in general. It's not a topic that is widely.
And it's not something when I do hear about it, it's not something I fully understand. So that's why I appreciate places like this. People can ask those questions. So.
Yeah, no, that's why we created this podcast. So it's not you talk for 3 minutes and I hang up on you and I talk about your question. So that's how most radio works in this area. So I appreciate us being able to have a more long-form conversation to talk about some of these things because I think that they're important to get out there and understand. And that's why I didn't want to not at least address it in today's podcast because it is important in the sense that now the Penguins do have some intel on us, and it'll be interesting to see if that means anything, Matthew Phillips, I never particularly liked. He's too small, and he just got beat off the puck too many times, in my opinion. But I wish him well. It's nothing, and I hope that we somehow find a way to get him back to Hershey, because having his speed on that team, I think, would be a different scenario, because in AHL it's not, it's a little bit of a different game. So I think he would actually do better in that scenario. But we'll see how it goes. But so thank you for bringing up the question. I appreciate that. And with that, I think we will end the hockey segment. But I will say, everyone go check out Gil's podcast. Happy 50th birthday! And Gil, any final thoughts before we end this segment?
I am Arthur, King of the Britons, and C4 is the Black Knight, and I've already slashed her arm off. So if anybody's wondering,
Just about to scratch.
Sorry.
I like it.
Sorry, not
Happy
sorry.
belated birthday,
No, you
Gil.
shall pass.
Thanks, champ.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.